Coast was a pretty cool place to grow up.
I lived just down the road from Dylan, and we both rode bikes to school at an early age and evolved from there.
The cycling community on the coast was pretty quiet when I was young. There was always a few people that really pushed it and pushed kids to get out on bikes. Doug Detweiler from Sprockets and Bob Stanhope.
The two-wheel love. When we moved here, it was fishing, mining, and logging, and those days have changed. So how do you redefine yourself as a community? Tourism.
It's all just slowly starting to snowball, and more people are discovering this quiet little place as some of the best mountain biking the coast of BC can offer, really. The best thing about all the trails within Sprockets and all over the coast, they have a lot of flow. There's no crazy features, nothing steep and aggressive. Everything is just really fun.
You always think of someone getting injured when you see a stick across the ground. Get it out of the way if you can, do your part.
Sprockets was developed in the early 90s by a local teacher named Doug Detweiler. He got this piece of property together, and it was actually an old landfill.
I find that with bikes, there's certain challenges that go with it. You build a certain mental toughness, whether it's learning to suffer up a hill or get over an injury, or just taking those little challenges and those little steps to help you become a better cyclist and a better person.
15 years later, we're still riding these same trails. So.
Yeah. Roberts Creek is a cool little town. A lot of hippies, a lot of draft dodgers, quiet little community, a little general store, health food store, and a couple little restaurants. And it's kind of the gateway to Mount Elphinstone as far as trails go.
Basically right out our back door, essentially, it's shuttle trails with tons of XC. And we hooked up with some of the old locals, Bob, Warren, and Dale, and Megan, and checked out one of Dale's new trails, Rio Grande. We spend so much time at the park now that we've got the older locals keeping us excited and showing us the new treasures. Brings it back to when we grew up riding. It's all just for fun. As long as you're on a bike, doesn't matter where you are, what you're doing, it's always going to be fun.
We always see those guys out pedaling, but we never really end up linking up with them, so it's pretty cool to get out and do a lap with them. As a kid, there was a couple guys that really cranked out a lot of trails. They would actually drive us up the hill every Thursday or Tuesday for the group rides, and that really stuck with us and kind of showed us that you can just head up the hill with some tools and build whatever you want.
Like, there's endless spots to just finish your day off. You're not watching a TV, you're watching a sunset at the beach, having beers with the boys. It's pretty sweet.
Over the years, we've done a lot of machine work for movie segments and things like that, and the main guy we would hire, Darren Hemstreet, and a couple years later, his son got into mountain biking, and gears started turning in his head, and he's like, I know a property on the coast where we could build our own park. We went and checked out the property, and we're like, no way. Fuck it, we're just gonna go for it.
We wanted to grasp a concept that wasn't quite touched yet, and that's a park, not so much as like a resort.
Keeping it simple, it's just trucks and trails, and we got a chef here and a little hut to keep dry, and that's all you need.
My name's Evan Young. Well, I'm still the intern. I don't think I'll ever lose that name, but I'm moving up in the ranks, and I'm the mountain operations manager.
Yeah, they get to look like rock stars and everybody thinks it's glorious, but the reality is they work their ass off. And then they have put this place on the map, man.
60 to 70 vehicles driving through every morning on a Saturday. Small town's gonna notice. We've had zero vandalism, we've had a lot of respect throughout the community, and it's a positive thing up here.
I think the future is pretty bright for the whole cycling community on the coast.
You can't help but stay motivated when you're around good people like Curtis and Dylan and Darren and what have you. The fact is they love what they do and they're chasing a dream, and you gotta respect people for that and do whatever you can to help support that.
Coolest thing about the coast is there is all these different little pockets, and there's so many trail networks it's hard to even keep track of them, and one that we haven't really put our time in and explored enough is West Sechelt.
Seems like there's an army out there, but it's a pretty core group of people going out and just making it happen just so that they can go out and ride.
There's not a lot of elevation, but there's a lot of little pockets and areas you can traverse around to, and there's some sweet little hits stashed up in the hills up there.
The bulk of the trails back there were built by a fellow by the name of Brad Proctor and his wife Lorraine. Brad and Lorraine owned On the Edge Bike Shop, which is now Off the Edge in Sechelt. Brad's an old-time frame builder, and he's got stories from way back when in the days of the wooden wheel. You can actually link yourself with just a tiny bit of pavement from Sprockets Park to Roberts Creek to B&K, come in through Sechelt, drop through town, back up through West Sechelt into Half Moon Bay, and carry on to Pender Harbor, Egmont, and get on a ferry and only touch pavement for about 100 meters. That's why the BC Bike Race does 2 days on the Sunshine Coast now, just for that reason. My history of Powell River, it's similar, and still is a resource town. I know they've got some real keeners. I used to do 1 or 2 days a week work up there, and I'd always take my bike up and ride with the crew.
We are a bit isolated. As you've heard people say, we're 2 ferries away from Vancouver. We live in a working forest. A lot of the foresters that work for the various licensees that log here are mountain bikers themselves.
Well, I worked here for 37 years for the BC Forest Service. Kind of a little bit different community design. Here we work together with other groups, including like ATV groups, and to get a lot of the trails done.
The mountain bike community here, there's a large age group of people.
Our trails reflect who's building them. And most of the people involved in building the trails are a little bit older.
I wish I could work with these guys more. They're retired. They can come out on midweek.
I'm very proud of our community and very proud of our trails, so I want them to be really good. I want the world to come here and ride. I'm retired from life as a lawyer. Building trails is what I do now.
I go out on Linda's Monday night rides, and she finds ways to get me out of the saddle.
We get a lot of people that are in their 50s, 60s coming out mountain biking for the first time.
In the last couple of years, there's been a lot more collaboration between the Bomb Squad, Cycling Association, the Chain Gang, ATV trail building. We all use the forest. It's here for everybody. There's just not one group.
We always like to encourage people to kind of do a circle route and come and visit the Lower Sunshine Coast, and then come here and then go to Cumberland and Vancouver Island.
Before BC Bike Race started in 2010, we didn't have a whole lot of visitors coming here. They didn't even know we existed. After the race started coming here, we'd even get phone calls from people in Whistler saying, do you have a map of your trails? We understand you. We had no idea you had mountain bike trails.
The coast, you can come here for 2 weeks and still never ride the same trail twice, and there's always something for everybody in the family. I like to think of the Sunshine Coast as this hidden little gem. There's 6 million people on the other side of that ferry, and if we can get them to understand a little bit about who we are and where we are, I think we have a lot to offer.